The global apple market is projected to reach $110 billion by 2029, but behind this impressive growth forecast lies a hidden struggle. In previous years, millions of apples were left to rot on the ground, wasted, as growers faced a bumper crop that pushed prices down to unsustainable levels. Imagine cultivating a perfect apple, only to find out it's worthless. This isn't just about apples. It's about livelihoods, wasted resources, and an entire industry fighting for survival against the odds. Apples, they're more than just a fruit, you know? Like seriously, they're actually super important for the global economy. Apples create jobs for millions of people. Think about it. Farmers growing them, workers picking and packing them, drivers transporting them. And guess what? The apple industry brings in billions of dollars every year. For real, it's got a total economic impact of $23 billion in the United States alone. That's a lot of money supporting so many communities around the world. But hey, it's not just about the money. Apples are also a huge part of our culture. I mean, we use them in all kinds of foods we love. Apple pie, juice, snacks, you name it. And apples aren't just food, they're symbols too. Symbols of health, tradition, and comfort. That's why they're kind of special in our daily lives. So, whether it's about enjoying a healthy snack or remembering our traditions, apples definitely have a special place in our hearts and culture, for sure. The global apple market value is estimated at $101 billion in 2024 and is expected to grow to $110 billion by 2029. Okay, so here's the deal with apples. The biggest producers are China, the United States, and Turkey. China is way ahead, growing over 47 million tons of apples every year. That's like half of all the apples in the whole world. Seriously, they're huge in the apple game. Then we've got the United States, which is the second biggest producer. Most of the apples in the US come from Washington State, but places like New York and Michigan are big players too. And don't forget Turkey. They're also a major producer, growing around 4.5 million tons of apples each year. Now, these countries have a pretty big impact on the apple market around the world. Their production levels actually help decide how much apples cost and how many apples or apple products are available. So because these countries grow apples on such a large scale, apples end up being available just about everywhere, which makes them super important for the global food supply. Okay, so here's what's up with people eating apples. Countries like China, the United States, and India are big on apples. China's actually the biggest apple fan. Seriously, they eat about 40 million tons of apples every year. That's almost half of all the apples in the whole world. The United States also loves apples for real. Apples are one of the most popular fruits there, and people enjoy them in all kinds of ways. Fresh, in juice, in desserts, you name it. And then there's India. People there are starting to eat more apples too, especially since more folks are going for healthier foods, so apples are becoming pretty common in Indian diets. These countries eating so many apples really affects the apple market. Basically, their high demand has a big impact on the prices and how available apples are worldwide. Okay, so here's the thing about growing apples. It's getting more expensive, like a lot more. The costs of paying workers and buying the stuff needed to grow apples, like equipment, fertilizers, and other supplies, are all going up. Just to give you an idea, in Washington, USA, workers get paid $19.25 per hour, plus they get overtime pay if they work more than 40 hours. This has made labor costs jump by about 16%. So, basically, that means it costs $21 more per bin just for labor if they're working 48-hour weeks. All these rising costs are making it really tough for apple growers, especially in places like Washington. It's harder for them to make a profit because they have to spend so much just to keep their operations running. For many of these farmers, it's a struggle just to cover all their expenses and stay in business. All right, so let's talk about what happened with apples last year. There was a huge harvest. Like 173 million bushels were in storage, which was 20% more than the average over the last 5 years. Because there were so many apples, prices went down. Like, across the board, everything got cheaper. Now, cheaper apples might sound good for people buying them, but for the growers, it's tough. Lower prices mean they earn less money, which makes it hard to cover their costs, like paying workers and buying supplies. This is really stressful for apple growers, especially the small farmers who need those higher prices just to make a living and support their families. And if things stay tough financially, fewer people might want to keep farming apples, which could affect the apple supply in the future. Okay, so here's the thing with growing apples. It takes a lot of pesticides and nitrogen fertilizers to do it. These chemicals help protect the apples from pests and make them grow better. But honestly, they're not great for the environment. Apples often show up high on the list when it comes to fruits with the most pesticides, which isn't exactly the best track record. These pesticides can pollute the air, water, and soil, and that hurts plants, animals, and even people. And it's not just pesticides. Those nitrogen fertilizers are pretty damaging too. They can cause pollution because of chemical runoff, which ends up in rivers and lakes, making invasive algae grow like crazy and messing up aquatic ecosystems. Now, growers are trying to save water and use it more efficiently, which is awesome, but the chemicals still have a negative impact on the environment. To really make a difference, we need more sustainable farming methods, like using fewer chemicals and finding natural ways to keep the apples safe. So, let's talk about jobs and apples. Turns out apple production actually supports millions of jobs all over the world. You've got farmers, pickers, packers, truck drivers, and tons of people involved in processing and distribution. And these jobs are super important, especially in rural areas where farming is, like, one of the main ways people make a living. By keeping these jobs going, apple production really helps rural communities stay strong and gives families a steady way to support themselves. Just in the US, the apple industry creates 150,000 jobs, bringing in over $8 billion in wages and $2 billion in tax revenues. It's not just the workers who benefit. Local businesses like equipment suppliers and grocery stores also depend on the income from apple farming. So, in a way, apples help keep a whole bunch of communities going. Alright, let's get into apples as a cultural icon, because they're definitely more than just a fruit. In a lot of cultures, apples are pretty symbolic. In the US, for example, apples are all about tradition and comfort. You've probably heard the saying, American as apple pie, right? It just shows how apples are a part of American identity. Plus, apples show up in all sorts of foods. Pies, salads, snacks. They're basically everywhere in our daily lives. And if we look at history, apples have been symbols of a lot of things. Health, knowledge, even love. You've got sayings like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, which shows how people see apples as being good for you. So yeah, apples are more than just a popular fruit. They hold deep meanings and connections in different cultures, making them kind of special for real. Alright, so let's talk about the environmental impact of apples. It's kind of a mixed bag. Apple farms usually use a type of farming called monoculture, which means they only grow one type of crop. This isn't great for the environment because it hurts the soil and reduces biodiversity, which basically means there are fewer kinds of plants and animals around. Without that variety, the soil gets less healthy and can get sick more easily. And then there's the packaging. Apples are often packed in plastic, which adds to pollution. Plastic takes forever to break down and can harm wildlife, so it's not exactly ideal. Plus, apple farming uses pesticides to keep pests away. But those chemicals also hurt the air, water, and soil, and they don't just affect pests. They can harm other animals and plants too. And let's not forget about the nitrogen fertilizers. They can cause a lot of pollution because of runoff, which ends up in water and makes invasive algae grow like crazy, messing up aquatic ecosystems. So yeah, all these things together make apple production not so great for the environment. To fix this, we really need to move towards more sustainable farming methods to reduce these negative effects. Okay, so here's the deal with food waste. It's a big problem, and apples are often part of it. Last year, millions of apples were left to just rot on the ground because of a few things. There was an oversupply, fewer exports, and weather problems like hail. Basically, sometimes there are just too many apples, and they can't all be sold, so they end up going to waste. This waste isn't just sad. It's really bad for the environment too. All the resources that went into growing those apples, like water, energy, and labor, end up wasted too. Plus, when apples rot, they release methane, which is a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. So yeah, reducing food waste is super important for protecting the environment, saving resources, and making sure the hard work of farmers doesn't go to waste. One way to help with this problem is to find better ways to use those extra apples, like donating them to food banks or turning them into other products. Doing that could really help cut down on waste. Alright, so let's talk about some cool new things happening in apple production. Apple growers are using new technologies to make things better and more efficient. One of these is called controlled atmosphere storage. Basically, this means they store apples in special rooms where they control the temperature, oxygen, and humidity. It helps keep apples fresh for a long time, which is awesome because it means less waste. And apples are available year-round, even when it's not harvest season. This technology was actually created way back in the 1930s at Cornell University. And here's how it works. They keep apples in an environment that's about 2% oxygen, with tightly regulated humidity, temperature, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. It's all carefully controlled to slow down the apple's ripening rate. Pretty clever, right? It helps keep those apples fresh for much longer. Okay, so here's another cool innovation in apple growing. It's called high-density cultivation. Basically, this means planting apple trees closer together, which lets growers produce more apples on the same piece of land. It's kind of a win-win because it also makes it easier to take care of the trees and harvest the apples, saving both time and labor. With these advancements, apple growers can produce more apples, save money, reduce waste, and meet the growing demand for fresh apples. It's all about getting more out of the land they have and making the process as efficient as possible. Okay, so here's the thing about making apple farming better for the environment. It's all about sustainable practices. One of these is called integrated pest management, IPM, which is just a fancy way of saying they're trying to use fewer chemicals and find natural ways to deal with pests. For example, introducing helpful insects that eat the bad pests. This helps keep the air, water, and soil cleaner by cutting down on pollution. By using IPM, apple growers can reduce pesticide use and even do things like reforestation to help offset their impact. And then there's water conservation, basically using water carefully. One way they do this is with drip irrigation, which means water goes directly to the roots of the apple trees. It's way more efficient and means less water is wasted. These kinds of methods help make apple production more environmentally friendly and sustainable. Plus, they save resources and protect nature. All right, so let's talk about organic apples. They're getting more popular because people see them as healthier and better for the environment. Organic apples are grown without synthetic pesticides or chemical fertilizers, which makes them safer for both people and nature. Just recently, about 7% of all the apple farms in the US were managed under certified organic farming systems. Organic apples do cost more, but they also bring in a higher price at every level: farm, wholesale, and retail. This growing demand is actually a big opportunity for apple farmers to switch to more sustainable methods. By growing organic apples, they can use fewer harmful chemicals, which helps protect the soil, water, and wildlife. Plus, this shift towards organic can attract more customers who care about their health and the planet. In the long run, organic farming can also improve soil quality and make the whole process more sustainable. Okay, so apples are actually super important, not just for the economy, but culturally too. On the economic side, they create millions of jobs and bring in billions of dollars, supporting a whole bunch of communities all over the world. Culturally, apples are symbols of health, tradition, and comfort, and they're in a lot of our favorite foods. So yeah, when you put it all together, the economic strength and cultural value, it's pretty clear that apples are a big part of our lives in more ways than one. Alright, so the apple industry definitely has some challenges. Things like rising costs, environmental damage from chemicals, and a lot of food waste. To keep moving forward and have a successful future, it's really important to focus on more sustainable practices. This means using fewer pesticides, conserving water, and finding better ways to cut down on waste. If the apple industry focuses on sustainability, it can keep growing while also taking care of the environment. It's all about finding that balance to make sure we can enjoy apples for a long time without hurting the planet. All right, so here's the thing. If we use new technologies and make smart choices, we can help make the apple industry more sustainable. Innovations like better storage methods and natural pest control can really make a big difference. And it's not just up to the growers. Consumers can help too by choosing organic apples and doing their best to reduce food waste. If we all work together, we can create a healthier and more sustainable future for apples. And honestly, for the planet too. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the challenges and opportunities in the apple industry? Drop your ideas in the comments below. This video took a lot of research and effort, and I really hope it inspires you to make some simple changes. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Your support means so much. It helps me keep creating content that can make a positive difference. Thanks for being part of this journey.